There should not be have-nots and haves as we go forward in dealing with the needs of resilience, adaptation, and change with regard to the climate crisis. And that people shouldn't be left behind. I'm glad he didn't say stable genius. You know, thrown the whole event off. Mr. McEachin outlined the effort. And it's no coincidence that the drivers of environmental policy right now are big gas and big oil. No coincidence. And this bill creates some balance for normal folk in this country. These 18 months have been really productive in formulating this bill, dealing primarily with affected communities and having them be the drivers to much of the content that is within this legislation.
As we know for far too long, communities of color, low-income communities, and tribal and indigenous communities have not had a meaningful voice in the decision-making process impacting their well-being. Not with this bill. Since the last Congress, Raúl and I have been collaborating with environmental justice leaders and community members on an inclusive, participatory process to craft the bill we are introducing today.
What we're talking about is making sure that we don't forget about and we really protect frontline communities. That's really what we're all about, that everybody has an equal opportunity to protect themselves.
I can count on one hand the number of times at the introduction of a major bill, the chairman of the committee did not claim credit for him himself and actually said this was a process by which we tried to open it up and get as much input as we possibly could from the communities that were affected, the communities that have been left behind far too many times over the course of our nation's history. As you all know, that just doesn't happen, but it just did. Chairman, well done.
And someone whose district in Chicago and suburban Cook County encompasses many communities that historically have been dumped on. These are areas in the old industrial city where many of the polluting industries have been located for many years. This is the type of relief, the type of vehicle that we need to ensure that there is environmental justice.
Our frontline communities and communities of color are often left behind. Our low-income communities, we're hit first and we're hit worst. And that's why this legislation and this work and this coalition is so critically important. And at a time when we are in the majority, it is time for us to move and to act. We cannot be ignored anymore and need to be at the forefront of this conversation.
Environmental racism will not be ignored. It will not be avoided. On the contrary, through the Environmental Justice for All Act, we will have the ability and the right, and governmental agencies will be required to engage communities in a real, meaningful way.
The process in which this bill was informed has truly incorporated our environmental justice communities. Not only do we have this working group that includes organizations already dedicated to environmental justice, but we also had 2 rounds of public comments and input with very intentional outreach. The edits and revisions made during this process showed us that our experience was taken seriously.
Environmental justice communities who are not invisible communities, they exist and they need to be helped. Just like anything else, we are making a difference, you are making a difference, and we appreciate everyone here for your presence.
As an environmental justice organizer, we always say we need to sit at the table and we have to speak for ourselves. And they have included us in that process, and I'm truly, truly appreciative for that.
You know, we get to stand up here and talk nice about what we just did. We didn't do it. It was a process, and it was a group process, and none of us can take singular credit. This is a shared credit, and now, to moving this bill forward, it becomes a shared responsibility of every one of us.